You're listening to the Connecticut Real Estate Edge podcast, your source for tips and tricks on building wealth through real estate in Connecticut. You will get the best techniques from leading local experts in real estate and lending. Now, here's your host, Robert Weinberg.
Good Saturday morning to you, everybody. Welcome to Mortgage Matters Radio Show and the Connecticut Real Estate Edge podcast. Along with Rob Weinberg, I'm Gary Byron. Rob, good morning, man. Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you, Gary. How you been?
Not too shabby. Yourself? I'm a little full.
Doing all right.
all the turkey. How's your Thanksgiving?
Excellent. Some amazing turkey and
did you go away?
All the fixins. Yeah. I went to New Jersey to the wife's family for the day. So
is that where she grew up?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like central New Jersey.
Okay. A lot of traffic this weekend?
Oh, wow. Yeah. Never a fun time to be in the car.
Did you leave on Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving? That's like the biggest travel day of the year.
So we were going to, but with it being so crazy, we just decided Thursday morning's a better option.
Okay.
You know?
Did you stay overnight and enjoy it? Time
definitely had a good time. You know, the girls went out for their Black Friday as usual.
Why would? Okay. That's not my favorite day to shop.
Oh, no.
But
I prefer just going online, keeping it easy.
A few things you have to. I like to support the local retailer.
Yes.
It's not so much of going to the retailers. I don't mind going to the store. I'm just not crazy about going to the store on Black Friday.
Yeah, it's a mob house over there.
Yeah.
What can you say? It really is. I don't like it. I never go. But I think there's some sort of a tradition in going out. And I think also it makes people feel back nostalgic a little like the old days because a lot of people were doing that as kids and teenagers. You know, they go with the family to the Black Friday sales, the Christmas lights, just all the holiday decor seems to come out around that time of year, you know?
Yeah, I do. How between Thanksgiving and New Year's, you and I both know people personally in real estate. They always tell me this year after year. They're like, "Oh, Gary, this is probably one of the worst times, for people." No one's got that in the forefront of their mind. It's usually right after the New Year, they hit the pavement running. It's like, that's it. Well, they're looking ahead and going full steam. Right now, they've got, where are we going for this holiday? You got to make something that I forgot to pick. I got to buy this. We got a holiday party here. It's like, let's just put that on the back burner for 6 weeks, and then we'll get to it. And then when we get to it, right after the new year, we'll go full steam ahead, and that'll be in the from the back of your mind to the forefront of your mind. And as you know, we both have good friends that are in real estate agents, real estate brokers. How does that impact you on the mortgage, on the lending side of things? Let's say for the next, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever it takes between Thanksgiving and New Year's.
How it impacts us is that there's just less transaction volume. There's less applications coming in. There's less new pre-approvals. So it's just really a downshift, I would say.
But it's not new because it's like that every year.
No, it's like that every year no matter what happened with the market, interest rates, doesn't matter. It's just more of a personal decision that people make that, I want to step back for a bit. I want to get my plans, my goals in place. I want to get that foundation. And really, I think that's probably, I think for everyone, it's really just an excuse to be able to let go of things for a little bit. And I completely understand it. But what I find is that there's a small group of people every year, a lot of singles or newly married couples, and they see that opportunity. Yeah. And they see less competition. And they see the winter.
But there's less inventory too, though.
This year is different than past. There's always a little bit less inventory around that time. This year, there's a lot less inventory because of just the economic supply and demand. But again, this year, like last year, like the year before, there's opportunity now. You're going to get a better deal today than you would have gotten. And if you have a good agent, you have a good team behind you, like we are processing loans. We are underwriting loans. We are closing loans between Thanksgiving and New Year's. A lot of them in good loans for people that are taking advantage of these opportunities that we're talking about. So don't look at the masses and do what they're doing. Do the opposite. Like they say, buy when there's blood in the streets. Well, if everyone's out, checked out, till next year, that's a good opportunity for the people that are able and willing to do that work, to go to the open houses, to talk to realtors, to get their pre-approvals buttoned up. Like, it's just, again, less demand, less supply, big opportunity.
So you often talk about getting your team, right? Your agent, your lender, your attorney. If there's an accountant involved, maybe that person. And then you like to know everybody's phone numbers and you work together as a team on behalf of the client. Maybe this, for the next 5-6 weeks, maybe this is a great opportunity for, the buyer to get that team together so that when January 2nd comes, they're ready. They're not putting the team together then. They can hit the pavement running, going, all right, if I see something, I'm ready. You know what I'm saying? Maybe now, since that's a great time to put the team together.
It is.
Now.
You have more time right now to step back a little bit. I mean, people, even though everyone's working still, the responsibilities are a little less, I've found from speaking with people between Thanksgiving and New Year's. Maybe some people are on vacation or that sort of thing. So if you have a little bit less responsibility or time commitment on there, you can redirect that to building that wealth team, getting your lender in play, getting your pre-approval, getting introduced to a couple realtors maybe, getting your real estate attorney in place, like getting that team just buttoned up so everyone knows we're hitting the ground running January 2nd, like you said. So, I would recommend just, if you're in the market even thinking about it, and we were talking about this before the show, but just in case, get everything ready, because if you're doing all this legwork, you might as well have that pre-approval in hand so that if a great property comes up on December 22nd, you can put in an offer on that day or the next day when almost nobody is in the market then. So really, really good opportunities for people. That's what I want to shift to talking about, is the success stories.
Okay, you stole my my thunder here. That's what I wanted to go next. This is one of my favorite shows. I don't know, we do it maybe 3 or 4 times out of the year, once a quarter, whatever, is when Rob is a humble guy, but the truth be told is that there are a lot of testimonials that come in praising the work that Rob does on behalf of them. And this gives you a little bit of an opportunity for you to boast a little bit about.
I love it. Of
course you love it.
Yeah, I love it because it's not about me. That's why. This is not about me. It's about them and the success that they've had. And we sit here all day, every single week, and we talk about this. But what about reality? What about what really goes on in a real person's life when it comes to this? That's what we want to focus on.
I said he was humble, and you just got a glimpse of that right here. Believe me. It's about the work that he's done on behalf of his clients. All right, I'm going to start right here. Louis L. from Ansonia. This is what he writes. Rob is phenomenal. He's professional, courteous, and straightforward. His attention to detail and his follow-up regimen are bar none. He guided me and several members of my family through the entire financial process of refinancing and securing a mortgage on a few properties. Rob and Benchmark came through when the banks only wanted to nickel and dime us without putting in the work. Did I mention his follow-up skills? Yeah, they are worth mentioning twice. He took all the obstacles and guesswork out of the process. Plus, he has a fantastic network at his disposal of reliable people for all aspects of the process of buying and selling a home. Thank you, Rob. You are definitely my future and only financial resource. Before I have you comment on that, talk about, as he did, Louis from Ansonia, your follow-up work. People, if he hit on something that I have read every time we've done a show like this. People are always mentioning about your follow-up work. It's kind of become what you're becoming very well known for.
Yeah, I mean, follow-up in mortgage and real estate, unfortunately, it's we're in a transactional business as a whole in the industry, and it's deals right now. What can we do today? But that's not the way the world works. Like, people are not always ready to buy a home right now, today. they're not always ready to refinance right now. It may be a 3-month process. It might be a 6-month. With this gentleman, Louis, I want to say I started speaking with him about refinancing his home back in 2014, 2015, okay? And actually, we never ended up going through with that refinance that he inquired with me about. So he found me online as a trusted local expert in lending and knew he wanted to refinance his home many years ago, didn't know where to turn. We did an analysis on it for him. And he actually, at the time, his now ex-wife, he wasn't able to convince to let him move forward with this refinance. So like we followed up, we stayed in touch, like many months and months later, finally it was like, all right, this opportunity, she's saying no. Like if you're on a house and there's 2 spouses and one says no, it's not going to happen. And unfortunately I wasn't able to communicate with her, but we stayed in touch. And like 6 months later, Louis contacted me because his nephew had been trying to refinance with Wells Fargo Bank. I'm going to name names here, guys. Wells Fargo Bank, maybe you've heard of them, had been trying to refinance his nephew for like 3-4 months, and we're not getting the job done. They kept coming up with obstacle after obstacle, issues with appraisals, issues with his income, like all this stuff. And he said, Rob, I want you to take a look at this for my nephew. I did. And the long and short of it is we closed on that refinance like 3 weeks later for his nephew. Wow. So even though he didn't do a refinance, he referred me someone who did that refinance. It went very, very smooth and great. Then fast forward a few months after that, he had another family member that needed some advice on a home mortgage that they were doing, not with me, with somebody else. But I gave them good advice on that. I explained why the program they were going to go with wasn't the right program. And, again, kept bolstering that relationship. And then fast forward to today, just the last few months, Louis contacted me around January, February, saying his parents had just moved up here from Puerto Rico. They sold a home in Puerto Rico, made a good deal of money, moved up. They're retired now, and they want to be near the family. So they moved up to Connecticut, and they were just staying with family, wanting to actually get themselves established. So they had some credit items, some things that had to be handled. So between February until just a few months ago, we had been working through that process, and they got devastated because the first home they found, they just lost. They bid over asking, and they still lost it. And they were devastated. They stepped back from the process for a few weeks after that. But I ended up pairing them up with an agent that I do a lot of work with who really takes people under their wing when they have those scenarios. And he was able to find them this amazing home in Ansonia. It was completely renovated. It was exactly what they need. He was able to get them $10,000 off the listing price. Just an amazing deal. And it all comes full circle because what started as a no, where Louis couldn't refinance with me, we bolstered that relationship. We built a real trust with each other. And now he's referred, several family members to me that have gone through transactions. His own parents, bought this home, their first time buying a home here on the mainland in the States. And it was a simple, easy transaction that actually we closed a few weeks early. So when Louis is talking about, the trust, when he's talking about the follow-up, this is a differentiator for us because most realtors and lenders do not follow up at all. If you can't do business today, all right, call me back when you're ready. And how many of those end up falling through the cracks?
Good point. Colleen Law from Woodstock writes, my experience with this mortgage lender was flawless. Good communication. There we go. Efficient and on time. Can't say enough good things about Rob Weinberg. Again, it's the communication. This is going to be resounding all throughout the show.
Mm-hmm. And this is a realtor, a real estate professional that I had never worked with before. She came to me through a client, like happens so many times where, hey, who's on your wealth team? Who are you working with? Here's my agent. Here's my attorney. And we have to get integrated into that team. So that's what happened in this case. And, Corleen, from the beginning, we hit it off. We work similarly, good communication, like she said. And we synced up really, really well. Our minds, what we looked for with the client, how we approached and communicated with the client was just very in sync. So I always come from the standpoint that I want to work with people that I like to work with. So, and there's unfortunately realtors across the country are really a dime a dozen. There's so many that are part-time or that don't take their profession seriously, but there's also a lot that treat their real estate practice like a true business. Corleen was one of those. So we had that, shining light moment where we really connected and decided that, hey, we want to do business together. She wants to refer clients to me. I want to refer clients to her that need a real estate partner. And it all started with that one relationship, that one transaction, because you never know. I mean, everybody talks a big game, right? And in real estate, it's like, hey, here's what I've done. Here's how much I've closed. Here's all the money I've made. And you look at that and say that person's successful, but that's not the truth. It's really, you're only as good as your last transaction. So she took it seriously, and the transaction went very smooth for everyone to the point where now we've worked together a couple times. But after the transaction's complete and I talk with my realtor partners about this, it's like, what did we do good? What can we improve on? And actually taking what they tell us and implementing that, because it's not always a 10 out of 10. We try to make it that every time. But to me, if I'm getting a score of 8 or 9 out of 10, my question is, what do I need to do to take that from that 8 or 9 and get that to that level of 10? Most of the time, the reasons why realtors have issues with mortgage professionals is communication. So when they talk about that in their reviews and testimonials, it's because for us, communication is number one. Like, that is the most important thing, because that's the most pain that real estate professionals face on a daily basis when it comes to who do we refer our clients to? Who can we trust to take care of that client? Because whoever is going to work with that client on their mortgage, the realtor's actually entrusting us with their commission check. If that deal does not close, they do not make the commission. Like, we are in a commission-only business. So if deals don't get done and transactions don't get completed, it's not one person losing. It's a domino effect. Like, it's a lot of people that lose out on that. So she's great.
Folks, you are listening to Mortgage Matters radio show and the Connecticut Real Estate Edge podcast. You can contact Rob Weinberg at 860-413-3938 and online at robgw.com. Along with Rob Weinberg, I'm Gary Byron. Sam Carbonetti from Windsor writes, quote, Rob is incredibly attentive, knowledgeable, and reachable. We spoke as often and as long as needed to make sure I understood every detail of the process. I was able to go through the house buying process with confidence, knowing that he had my best interest in mind. I plan on recommending him and Benchmark Mortgage to anyone I know going through the house buying process.
Yeah, this is a story that will probably resonate with a lot of people, because this gentleman has a wife, a couple kids. He was relocating from to Connecticut from Vermont. And he works remote. His wife was actually transitioning to a teaching position down here, and they needed to hit the ground running. They had a timeline, obviously, with schools and things. Like, when they were buying just in the summertime, like, they had to get there by a certain date because she was starting her teaching here. So they had a great realtor that they were already working with ahead of time, but they needed me as a lending partner, and they didn't know who to turn to. So what they did was went out to their network, the people they knew, and one of their, I think it's the cousin of Sam here, is a past client of mine, actually lives in East Hartford. He found us here right on the radio show, Mortgage Matters. We did a loan for him last year. It went so well, he ended up referring his cousin to me here. And this transaction went really smooth. It went really well. We had, at the end, a little bit of a hiccup with some repairs that had to be done on the house, but they got done with no problem. Okay, they did. So it's not a matter of, like, if there's going to be an issue with real estate on almost every transaction. There's at least 1 or 2 speed bumps. But how do those get handled? Like, is everyone stressing and freaking out where it's this big deal? Or do we have a plan? Do we have a solution where we're going through and making sure that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed? And in my collaboration with his realtor, we had a bulletproof plan of action that we knew from the beginning what that plan was going to be. And there was great communication between his agent, the buying agent, and the listing agent as well, to make sure that these repairs were going to get done by the time the appraiser went out there. So a great story, a great family, and hopefully now you're starting to see like this theme that people have. This is not the case with every mortgage lender. There are mortgage lenders that have some low reviews, some bad reviews, because we're not all perfect. And, again, not every one of mine goes perfect, but I'd like to say that on my worst day, I'm better than a lot of my competitors on their best day.
Oswaldo O. from Manchester writes, it was a great experience working with Rob, very knowledgeable, full and helpful throughout the entire process.
This is a great story, this gentleman, Oswaldo. Oz, as I refer to him, has. And Oz has lived in Manchester for years and years. He actually just moved. So it says from Manchester. When he wrote this, he was there, but he just moved down to Florida. That's what I helped him with. So he came to me 5 or so years ago to get help refinancing his home in Manchester. And the housing market 4 or 5 years ago was very different than it was today. And we looked at the numbers, and he had this federal housing loan on his property, and we couldn't help him refinance. He didn't have enough equity. He actually owed more at that time than the house was worth. So we had looked at his situation and said, well, we only have control over so much. Like, we cannot control the equity in your home. That's going to be controlled by the real estate market. But we kept that relationship going. And I said, why don't you work on your credit a little bit? Because there's some items on your credit that I see as potential tripping hazards when we do eventually get this mortgage done. Why don't you work on some of this? And I gave him a specific action plan. And we stayed in touch over, it was like every 6 months or so that I'd be in contact with him, whether it was by text or phone call, and we'd be keeping in touch. And eventually it got to the point where he was like, all right, Rob, I think I want to look at that refinance again. Talking to my wife about some things. We're not sure what we want to do. And we went and ran his credit, and actually his score had gone up like 50, 60 points. So it went up quite a bit based on the tips I had given him, which were some strategic pay downs of some credit cards. And he said, you know what, Rob, I'm not sure, because now talking to my wife, we definitely want to refi if we're going to stay here, but we're thinking we may want to move. We're just not sure if we want to stay in Connecticut or move down south to Florida where we have family. So the long and short of it is, after about a year and a half, and then 2 years of this back and forth, at one point he decided he wanted to move to Glastonbury, better school system than Manchester. Then he is like, you know what? No, for the price of what we could pay there, we've been looking down in Florida where my folks are, and we want to go to Florida. I'm licensed in Florida. Linked him up with a great realtor down there, found some great properties. Literally, he was pre-approved, and less than 3 weeks later, he actually was under contract on a gorgeous lake home down in Florida. It's got a pool in the back with the full, he's got the screened-in patio, and then the lake behind that. Beautiful home. It was built like 2009 or 10, so it's fairly new, and he's paying on it with tax insurance, everything, a lot less than he would be paying here in Connecticut. He decided, because him and his wife work remote, that that's the route they wanted to go. But it all started with that relationship. It wasn't just, hey, you don't want to buy now, you don't want to refi, see you later. It was, hey, what can we do to help you? How can we make your dreams a reality? And here he is, the end of 2022, and his dream a year ago is now a reality. He actually sent me a photo of him sitting outside the back of his home with the pool there, the lake, sipping a cup of coffee, and I just couldn't be happier for him.
The life. All right, about 4 minutes left. I want to try to get to two more. Axel C. from New Britain writes, Robert was a blast to work with. We loved how honest he was with our decision-making. I would definitely recommend Robert for anyone.
Axel was a first-time home buyer that found me online, and he came to me with not a clue really what to do, and we just built up from the ground from when he called me. He had good credit. He had all the things in play. At first with him, when I told him what he was pre-approved for, he was a little bit disappointed. So we said, hey, is there something we can do to help increase that pre-approval? He had his girlfriend who was with him, who had a good job. And by putting her on the loan, we were able to actually increase their buying power by over $100,000. And now he was able to purchase his dream home actually right in Windsor.
Really? Look at that. All right. Christina V. from Danbury writes, Rob Weinberg went above and beyond to aid in the mortgage loan process. He kept the lines of communication open with both my agent and me, clearly updated me on the progress, patiently answered all of my questions, all this, and we were able to close in about 30 days. Wow. This is my second time using Rob as for mortgage, and both experiences have been amazing. I am incredibly thankful for all that he does. Wow. Twice.
Christina was great. She's she's now single. You know, when I worked with her the first time, she was married, and I helped her and her husband buy a beautiful home. And their lives changed. They had to part ways, and she wanted to start a new chapter with a new property. She bought a gorgeous townhome down in Danbury. She had to do a lot of work, though. It was like a lot of bids, a lot of different properties, and she almost gave up hope. But she was working with a very good agent, and we collaborated as usual. We teamed up, and then she was able to find her dream property, and she moved in just a few months ago.
Cheryl C. Looks like we can do another one here.
All right.
Cheryl C. from Manchester writes, Mr. Robert Weinberg is superior in what he does. He was always available to answer questions and kept me informed about the progress of my refinance. His professionalism and knowledge are superior. Anyone who is looking for a mortgage or refinance, please contact him ASAP. Thank you for changing my life. I've only got about a minute.
Very quick here. Cheryl is a previous client of mine I worked with like 5 years ago on a refi. And she came to me after seeing something online and said, Rob, I have all this debt. I want to consolidate it. I don't think I make enough money. I said, Cheryl, let's look at it. Let's see what we can do. I don't want to call it a loophole, but I found a part of the guidelines where we could exclude this mortgage that she co-signed for her son years ago. And by using that guideline to her favor, we were able to get this refinance approved. We consolidated all of her debt. She saved over $1,200 a month, and she's a fixed income retiree. So you can imagine $1,200 a month when she thought she had no hope at getting a mortgage. She thought there's no way. But again, it's all about who you work with. So hopefully we've given people some motivation, some confidence. I mean, this is real world stories. These are real people right here that have done what you can do if you're listening.
And by the way, I mean, the list goes on. There's Jennifer Peters, Christopher Cruz. I mean, I could have, if we had more time, I could have even read more testimonials. Maybe we'll do a part 2 around Christmas time or something, because these are always fun, and it's diverse. Very diverse. These are very diverse testimonials and stories that you're commenting on, which shows how the wide range of people
so many different people we can work with. Home buyers, refinancers, homeowners, investors. There's so many. Let a mortgage be the solution to your financial problems. You don't know unless you ask.
Folks, if you'd like more information about this show, these testimonials, or any of the topics that we discuss on this weekly show, contact Rob Weinberg online at www.robgw.com. You can also email him. Maybe we can get your letter even answered on these very airwaves. It's Mortgage Matters Radio Show at gmail.com. If you'd like to schedule an appointment with Rob, I would say write this phone number down and call him immediately. 860-413-3938. One more time for that is 860-413-3938. For Rob Weinberg, I'm Gary Byron. Thank you so much for listening to Mortgage Matters Radio Show and the Connecticut Real Estate Edge podcast. Until next weekend, have a good one, everybody.
Thanks for listening. If you have questions about the information we've covered or would like to discuss mortgage financing for your situation, you can reach Robert Weinberg by visiting www.robgw.com.